Gnosticism, Catharism, where to start? Cathar Love 145. A number of people from YouTube and just other situations have asked me at different times, what do I recommend where they start to get background on Gnosticism, Catharism, and gather some learning in that field. Well, obviously there are Gnostic associations, but they're not everywhere, and they're certainly not in small towns in the countryside. So where does one start? Well, usually it's with books, but luckily today, without having to fill up your room with books, because not everybody wants to do that, or they have limited space. We can get them on Kindle, and each of the books that I'm going to recommend are on Kindle. I've checked. So therefore there's not a large amount of money to be invested, ranging from $5 or $6, $7, $8 per book. It's not an easy subject because Gnostic writings are varied, and where to start? Well, I think one has to divide the Gnostic side of things, and then later Catharism, into the past knowledge, literature, what's there, history, possibly archaeological findings to back this up, and recognising that they were written for those times. As well, we have the present, and there are people who are opening up areas at the Gnostic level, Cathar level, science and beyond. So this is the present. Before I start, I just want to add a small clip, because some other people have mentioned the fact that there's often birds in the background when I do a video. So out of my patio I have quite a lot of trees, because I'm next to a park, and palm trees, and of course the birds love to come there, and especially the parrots, and when there's blossoms they're there, and they're really quite noisy. They're not too bad at the moment. So I'm just going to put a very brief clip on just to show you. I mean, to me they're there all the time. So I don't. It's like having a traffic in front of your house. You just get used to it. But I love it, and I love the colour and the variety. So thank goodness for living in Sydney. Birds are everywhere, as with the rest of Australia. But anyway, full of colour, aren't they? They're amazing. Back to the subject. Well, Gnostic writings, I think one has to acknowledge probably a leader in that field, and that's the Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagels. pronunciation often depends on what university you went to. And it's a classic in this field, and it speaks for itself. Another book at that time, which I thoroughly recommend, it's one of the Gnostic Gospels. It's a wonderful translation. It's by Jehan the Killen. That's Jehannedequillan, and it's called My Beloved Companion. But it's the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. It's truly excellent, enjoyable, enlightening, and also the only Gospel that was actually signed by the author, in this case Mary Magdalene. The other book, which I, again, seeing I'm doing the recommendations in this particular case, is, and going back to the past, is the Tao Te Ching. Now the Tao Te Ching was or was not written by Lao Tzu, or compilation. Either it was written by him or put down by him, or a compilation put down by others and attributed to him, but it's an amazing book, and it's also Gnostic in its outlook, the way it expresses things. But when I say Gnostic, what I am pertaining to is the common denominator, because we have, well, you can go into the poems of Rumi, R-U-M-I, the wonderful Persian poet. Now that's Gnostic writing at its most wonderful. But you have other groups within Muslims and Judaism that are also Gnostic. And the common denominator is that Gnostics take charge of their own mind, body and soul. In other words, they think for themselves. And in doing so, they listen to everybody. That includes the knowledge and science of the day. And they take this into account as they within their beliefs. Because of the fact that Gnostics are expected to think for themselves, this means you've got a wide variety of thought. So this is the thing with Gnosticism, but the common denominator is that you are taking charge and you don't need a mediator, some other mediator between you and your divine, your deity or your guidance, whatever divinity means to you. So they're the books that I'd recommend, and they're each of them on Kindle. And that's the Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagels, My Beloved Companion by Jehan the Killen, the Tao Te Ching. So each of these, there's not a large outlay in cash, which is wonderful if one's got the thing to which most people have to do today to use Kindle. And then we leave that particular era and we come to the period of the Cathars, the Gnostic Cathars. And there you have the book that put the cat amongst the canaries as far as English was concerned, was the Cathars and Reincarnation by Dr. Arthur Gurdon. That book is very difficult to obtain these days. Another book, which is still available, is We Are One Another, also by Dr. Arthur Gurdon. The thing about Dr. Arthur Gurdon is that people tended to listen to him, more so because he was an imposing person, intelligent, very erudite, well-spoken, and a psychiatrist of note, and well known in his field. So when he came out and spoke about Catharism and about people that he knew, and including himself, people who were caught up with spirit guides, whom he mentions in there, specifically Brady de Montsever, people sat up and took note, and he offered them what proof he could. So that was certainly an opener. After that, there's the book, which many of you already have read. That's the Cathar Dialogues. And that was by the dialogues between Omni de Nabors, a Cathar Perfecti, and Jim Callahan in this life, but previously Guillaume de Mirepoix. And I've set them out in book form, and they were dialogues over 7 years. So it's a step along from, but in the same direction, same genre as Dr. Arthur Gurdon. The thing about Gnosticism is that we take charge of our own mind, body and soul. We listen to what's available, what knowledge is available, past, the present, and we add that to our knowledge, and we take from that what we believe or we think is appropriate to us, to our personal situation. I enjoy reading about the past, the Gnostics of old, the Cathars of old, but the plain fact is, I live in the present. My life is now. I may not have as much left as some of you people, but I don't have a problem. I don't have any illnesses whatsoever, which is not bad. See, I'm on the wrong side of 80. Well, nothing that the doctor can detect anyway. I have inner joy. My life is great, it's good, and there's lots of things going to happen as well. As far as my ongoing spiritual development is concerned. But I'm vitally interested in the present and in the future as regards the Gnostic movement, the Cathars, present day Cathars, which is a Catharism. We're not medieval Cathars, we're a Cathars, present day, Catharism for a different age, as Henri de Boers put it. We're not for the multitude, as he said, we're for the few. That's the comparative few. Even if we're 4 or 5 million, we're still a comparative few. The one thing that I take into account when I pick up a book and I think this looks interesting, I check out what it says about the Gnostic or the Cathar deity, which is the source of all, the Socratic, Platonic source of all. And what I have found is, in my case, and every case where people have gone back through past life regression they don't ever speak about God. They don't refer to it as God. They always speak about the light, the divine, but more specifically the source, which is fair enough because it's the source of all things, the creator of all things. So when I see someone's writing or they're talking and they refer to the deity as a source, my ears prick up and I listen. But if they talk about God as a personal God, I switch off straight away. If they talk about anything conditional, love, about if you're good you go here and if you're bad you go there, punishment, especially eternal punishment, I switch off. I'm not interested. It doesn't matter what they have to say, I'm just not interested. I don't have time. Because Gnosticism and Catharism, anything, the thing that bonds it all together is unconditional love, undifferentiated love. And the other thing, and it was certainly brought to bear on TV only a few days ago, and it had there was a show on, and it was Christians like us, and they had half a dozen Christians, a real variety. One was being abused by an Anglican priest. One was a Indian who converted to Hindu, who converted to Christianity. There were a couple of evangelical Christians. There was a woman, lovely lady. There was a Christian there who actually was a doctor and had performed abortions. Well, in the end, the humanists brought them together, but they were really at each other's throats. They, my gosh, it's Christianity, and they're all about judgment and sin and guilt and this and that. And I thought, it doesn't come in. The things that they're on about, the things that were so important to them, don't come into Catharism, modern day Catharism. You know, it's unconditional love. It doesn't matter. It's unconditional means unconditional love. And the other thing was that within Gnostic Catharism is that because we talk about the divine spark, our innermost core, our eternal identity, our unchanging individuality. This is our innermost core. But our innermost core is a spark of the divine. It's a cell of the divine, an actual part of the source. So in that respect, there are, what would you call it? You had these divine attributes that pertain to you. Every divine spark that is created has divine attributes. And the thing about that is that rather than I'm a miserable sinner, it's tried to get you to say, look, take away the limitations from yourself. Be boundless, be limitless. Because the thing is, again, with the great faiths, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, you are a body with a soul. To the Gnostics, to the Cathars, you are a soul with a body. You are a spirit with the body. You are a cell, a spark of the source, a divine spark of the source, a cell of the source that happened to be carrying around this body at this lifetime. And in fact, what you really are is consciousness. This is your real self, your consciousness. Energy, frequencies. Your energy frequencies are dancing. Everything is moving and dancing. This is what we are. We just happen to see ourselves with this body. But it's not an illusion, it's there, but compared to what we really are, it's an illusion. So the thing is, because we have this connection to divinity, we have this limitless capacity to be whatever we want to be. I'm talking now as far as spiritual involvement and mystical involvement is concerned for our mind, body and soul and the divine spark. So what we're trying to do is unchain, unmanacle people's thoughts, open it up to what's there, what science tells you, what metaphysical things tell you. It's all there. And why I'm saying all this, and why it's so, I think I'm pretty open. And I was told only a week ago that I put limitations upon myself. And I thought, well, I didn't think so, but I thought, I'm just so grateful and so happy for where I am. I'm healthy. I've got whatever I need. Financial independence. I'm not rich, but I can travel if I need to travel. So if I need something, I can buy it. So I can eat whatever I like. So my constitution is great. I've got plenty of energy, and anyway. So I'm just so grateful. But I thought, yes, okay, I'm here, but I can be further along. There's more involvement that one can do. And seeing I'm here and living, why not? So we're limited only because of the limitations we put upon ourselves. But what we're not doing is, we're not saying, don't do this, don't do that. We judge you or criticize you or put you down. We're trying to lift you up, free you. So the books that I'm talking about, and I mentioned Dr. Arthur Gurdam, his Cathar's Reincarnation, We Are One Another. The book that I put out, the Cathar Dialogues. These are trying to open us up, and they all talk about the divinity, the source. Over here there's another couple of books by Michael Newton. The Journey of Souls, his first one, and then The Destiny of Souls. These books don't mention Gnosticism, and they don't mention Catharism. They're about people. It's gone into thousands of people of all walks of life, religions, that have been regressed and have done past lives. I've done quite a few past lives for different people. I'm doing one at the moment for a person who needs some assistance. So it's been a big thing on my plate, more so before than now. But Dr. Newton, what he does is he takes them back to when they died in their last lifetime. And he goes from the point, he checks out how they died, and from that point, what happens? They have similar near-death experiences. They float up to the ceiling or wherever it happened to be, but they're looking down and there's their body, and then things happen after a certain time. Often the funeral, they may hang around for that, but they'll pass through, often a tunnel. But in every single case that he's had, without exception, they have been met by their personal spirit guide. Others, sometimes family. But in every case, this has happened. My friend Jim Callahan, when he died, Gulian de Mirepoix, of the Cathar dialogues, I saw meet him at the time, Susie, and Jim was there, and I wanted to check a few things with him, and he'd only died a few months before. And when I walked up to Susie, which is 60 kilometres away, and Woy Woy, she's now retired unfortunately, but I got to her and she said, "Hello John." I said, "Hey Susie." She said, Jim Callahan. Who's this Jim Callahan?" She said, "He's eager, isn't he?" She said, "Hang on, Jim, I'd like to say a prayer first." So there was Jim, and he was waiting for me, and then I had 5 questions, and he just answered them, and so forth. But and I think I mentioned this before on YouTube, and he mentioned how he died, and he had a headache, and he went to go across for bed. There was a buzzer there that he could contact his brother if anything was happening, because he was frail. We were both in the Korean War together, would you believe? But he was frail, but he was half on the bed and half off. He was like kneeling with one leg, and so anyway, he said how he died. He said he just had this headache. He said it wasn't that bad. He said it was a bit not to worry about. And he went across to. He was going to press the buzzer for his brother who was next to the bed. And he said the next thing I exited through his head chakra, through the top of his head. He said it was wonderful. He said it was euphoric. He said, "I'd like to have done it again." So he passed straight out without his consciousness losing anything. But the thing was, he says, "I'm up on the ceiling, floating up near the ceiling, looking down." And he said, "This idiot, he was not kneeling and he's not on the bed." And he said, "What's he doing there?" He said, what's this guy doing down there?" And it took him about 10-15 minutes, he said, to wake up. And he said, "Hang on, that's me down there. I'm dead." So his consciousness did not even realise that he was dead. And then he said he went through this tunnel, and he said there was Henri de Navarre waiting for him, his guide. And then he said, "I'm speaking Occitan to him." That's the Cathar language, the language of the Cathars in Languedoc, and they spoke Occitan. So he said, "I never realised you could speak that." So there was him. So what that book, the Michael Newton, who doesn't mention Cathars, whether he's aware of them or not, I have no idea. It doesn't mention Gnosticism. But what he does mention, and all the people that he could get to talk about God, they always said the source. And he asked why they don't say God. He said because the moment we say God, people think about a personal God. So he said that's just not the way it is. So therefore I've read his books, and it just confirms about guidance and about the source. And then of course what actually happens in the world of spirit. And then what happens there before one is reincarnated again. So I certainly recommend Destiny of Souls, or certainly one or both of those books. Now another one that has arrived on the scene, and not that long ago, is for people who really do wish to learn, and it's called the book of Siji by Peter Maxwell Slattery, an Aussie, and he's been very involved with extraterrestrials, and in particular with this entity that he goes on to. It's neither male nor female. It's like an extraterrestrial guide. But what she did, and she's come as a female form, an attractive looking female on the cover, blonde, Nordic. And she talks about the world, the Big Bang, the world of the extraterrestrials, of which Earth, we are extraterrestrials as well. We're all terrestrial beings. When you say, are they aliens, it's like saying you're a foreigner from somewhere. They're not aliens, they're extraterrestrials. We're all terrestrials. We all inhabit the terrestrial, the cosmos. We're all terrestrial beings. And there's many different types, and she talks about these. But she says, God bless her, it all happened with the source. All of creation. She explains creation. And then she explains, she doesn't say the divine spark. She says each of us are a cell of the source. Same thing, divine spark, part of the source, a cell of the source. As I put it once before, I'm a part of you and you are a part of me. I'm a part of you, you are all of me. All together we are one, one is all and all is one. But again, and she talks about the oneness of creation, how our consciousness, through our consciousness, if we expand our consciousness, if we learn how to do that, we can connect with the overall consciousness, which is the source. It is a wonderful book, but to me, and she talks about rebirth, reincarnation, the things that I talk about on YouTube, no contradiction. The things that Gnostic Catharism, she doesn't mention Gnosticism, she doesn't mention Catharism, but the things that we are talking about, how we limit ourselves, how the sky is the limit, the cosmos is the limit for what we can do, because we are part, our divine spark is a part of the source. We are a cell of the source, and that gives us this divine capabilities, unlimited capabilities, boundless capabilities. The Book of C.G. by Mike. Peter. I've only just not long read it, I must admit, by Peter Maxwell Slattery. It's on Kindle, $7 or $8, something like that. So all these books that I mentioned, apart from Cathar's Reincarnation, are on Kindle. So it's not for one to do research into all areas. And obviously some people are more interested in the past than the present, or some feel you need to know the past in order to understand the present. I wouldn't argue with that. I think we have to be open to all these things, but recognize that the past, the prophets and all these different people, that when they wrote about these things and they gave these philosophical or religious beliefs, they were a part of those times, and one should look at it as being a part of those times. And a lot of that, of course, is relevant for this day and age. But we have people in this day and age, Carl Jung, all the different people that we can learn from. The writings of Jung, Carl Jung, who was a Gnostic. He didn't admit it until he was about 50 years old, because he was worried about the professional side of things. But from my personal point of view, I'm so happy that I know about past writings, Gnosticism. I'm so happy I've read them. I'm happy for all that I know about medieval Catharism and what a wonderful period of people they were. But essentially, in reality, it's here and now, and what's happening, and what we need to know about moving on from here, from the point of view of our planet, our environment, safeguarding the planet, opening up to new universes, to new worlds, understanding what is going on about those things in relationship to ourselves. And certainly the book of CG certainly does a wonderful job in that direction. It really does expand our minds, and it's again pushing us, each of us, to expand, to get rid of our limitations that we impose upon ourselves, which has been given to us by our family, our culture, our religions, our politics, our education, all these things, that they're all putting us in this little box and really cementing our minds in some cases. Well, it's time. Well, for those who want to, some people are really happy with they want to stay in that, in the comfort of that, and have their minds and follow someone else. But there are those of us who want to break free and become boundless, as with take away all the limitations. You know, who says we've got to be old at 60 or 70 or 80, whatever? You know, most people are. By the time you're dead, most people are dead. But one doesn't have to be. You know, life is great. Bye for now. Talk soon.